Good evening and welcome to The Right Side, the show where we talk about today's news, views, trends, and opinions from an admittedly conservative perspective. I'm your host, Chris Pareja, and this evening we're joined by Christopher Blin. He's author of the book Swimming to Angola.
Yes.
Christopher, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So what made you interested in world travel and third world countries specifically?
Well, I ended up studying overseas in Europe and played basketball in Europe and Australia, so just seemed natural to go overland across Asia between the two. And from there I ended up later on driving up and down the length of Africa and driving from here to South America. My book, Swimming to Angola, chronicles my adventures through 96 countries around the world.
Wow, and so tell us a little bit about the book. That's what it's doing. It's about the 96 countries, but what's the overall thrust of the book?
Well, that's what to do if someone pulls a machine gun on you in Africa, or gypsies are trying to drug you in Eastern Europe. Things like this happen to me along the way, and it's how to avoid the things that I went through and go overseas and come back in one piece at the end of it all.
So is it applicable for us maybe being forced to take drugs by gunpoint in Oakland, or that's a different scenario?
A little bit different.
Okay, excellent.
But this will prepare you for anything, more or less.
I'm curious. Tell me about the drugging of by gypsies. What happened there?
On the Black Sea resort of Constanța in Romania. I just happened to be out late at night and met some guys who befriended me, said they were tourists like me from Turkey. They did look a little bit Turkish, but it turns out they were gypsies, and as I was speaking with them and buying them all beers, I got a splash in my beer and I thought it was a fly or something. I had no idea what it was, but I drank it down just the same, and later on it turned out to be some drugs, and they were waiting for me to drop all night, and I got out of it safe and sound, but it was like 4 or 5 in the morning when it happened, and I got out of it, but the next day I had to report it to the police, and they said, yeah, you were drugged the night before, and I made it through and made it out in one piece. So. Did
you end up with tattoos or married with a gypsy woman?
Nothing like that.
Nothing, okay. Like that. I woke up in Vegas. I don't know what happened.
And all I got was this lousy T-shirt writing.
Yeah, or holes in my T-shirt that I used to. Yeah, it's madness. And so, and you've ended up gunpoint and just driving through the wrong place at the wrong time, or?
One time in Albania, I happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. It was dark and it was late at night outside in the capital city. They have a large park there, and I happened to be with some friends, and well, all of a sudden I heard someone yelling at me from the other side of the fence, and I had no idea what he was saying because I don't speak Albanian, and all of a sudden he's clicking the machine gun bolt back and forth, and I hit the ground real fast. And I said, I speak English. He didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Albanian. It was a little bit difficult, but I did get out of there, and I got someone who could translate it, and I got too close to a government installation.
Okay.
And try to stay away from things like that, yeah.
Yeah, but the bolt on a rifle is kind of an internationally understood, maybe you're not supposed to be here.
Right, yeah. Exactly. But it's difficult when he's yelling commands at you and you have no idea what he's saying.
Yeah, for sure. So what was the impetus from just traveling and having all of these interesting experiences to actually taking it to the written form and writing a book about it?
I used to write home from wherever I was, and with the advent of the internet, this was long before blogs ever came about, but I had a few emails, and I would say, instead of saying dear mom and dad, I would say greetings from Kilimanjaro or wherever I was at the time, and then I would carbon copy that to about 300 people on my email list. And a lot of people wrote back and said, this is pretty funny stuff and it should be in a book format. And lo and behold, my book, Swimming to Angola, came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, as you've traveled these 96 countries, help us understand what were some of the major differences you see? I mean, obviously, Australia is going to be different than the U.S., but when you start going into Nigeria and these other places, the governmental structures are different, the laws are different, the reasons people will point machine guns at you are different. Yes. What were some of the standouts?
Well, let's see. You have to realize people are all trying to better themselves, get their family better, and have a peaceful life in general. But still, there are conflicts that come up along the way. and people deal with them in their different ways. Different forms of government. Ours is very open. For example, we have press conferences where people can ask intelligent questions, and hopefully by the responses that you get, you find a little bit of openness, because no one wants to be lying and be caught out about that. But other parts of the world, there may not be openness, as open as we are, and it may be a little bit difficult to question the government. Mm-hmm. I was in Nigeria, for example. I had a 3-month assignment in a hospital in northeastern Nigeria, and it was a little bit difficult because they have two TV stations, for example, and they also had CNN, which was 24-hour a day news channel right out of London, right, and that goes all over the world, right. Well, this was during the Bush administration, and it was during the Iraq War too, and they were very anti-Bush administration. It was more a left of center rather than a right of center type of thing. And I would be watching that as one of the only three things that we could see. And I was saying, like, oh boy, this is a little bit embarrassing for the USA. And one of the Nigerian hosts of mine said, actually, it's pretty good, because we only get sometimes to see a government type of sponsorship, government information that they want you to hear. See, with America, it says we can see that they allow questioning of the government, and even a news entity that is against the government, and they show a lot of things about it. So it gives it a lot of credibility. And I was almost embarrassed for some of the things that I saw coming off that. And I said, no wonder everybody, might not understand America or not think well of America because of what they see on CNN. And the guy told me that, hey, actually, it lends credibility, because you can see both sides instead of just the government line.
So, was that an anomaly, or was that a general theme that you were seeing from? Because as Americans, we're told that we're hated around the world, and in some cases we contribute to that through our own news media, through things like you were mentioning with that particular CNN time frame. But was that an individual who was just very mature, or did many of them believe what they were hearing?
Well, okay, wherever I go, I realize that there's probably about 10% of people who will really love me because I'm an American, and there will be 10% of people that will really hate me because I'm an American, and about 80% of the people will just wait till something happens, right? Mm-hmm. And you get feedback from people. But if you sit down and break bread with someone and have a drink with them or something, they will. I've heard so many times, hey, I never knew Americans were so cool or so nice, and all of a sudden you can change opinions if they had a chip on their shoulder. Sometimes they don't even know why they have it. And it's not only other people towards us, it's us towards ourselves, it's us towards other people. It's human nature.
But it's a good reminder that we're diplomats wherever we go, whether we hold the title or not.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So
they will remember you for a long time. So
to make it a good memory.
Yeah, it's like I was in this hospital in Nigeria for 3 months, and it was a town of 70,000 people and only one white man, and that was me. So whatever you do, it's like Schwarzenegger or Madonna coming into someone's town for 3 months. They all want to get a picture with you, and I'd put my hand around them and get the picture taken, and it's like being a celebrity. And I tell people, if you're ever feeling down in the dumps someday, and you're really not feeling right about yourself, go volunteer in a place like Africa, and you'll come back thinking that you're a superstar. Yeah. You won't get your head through the door.
Well, I have a brother who's been traveling back and forth to the Philippines a bit, and he's near 6 foot, and ceilings are around that height as well. So you do stand out, and the selfies and things are kind of obnoxious. But it's funny that we can have that different kind of effect on the people that were around. But as you were traveling, you saw different, as I mentioned, governmental structures, some of them where corruption was in play and everything else. We talk about corruption here in our government. What did you see when you were out there?
I find that a lot of people view their governments as, wow, they got in there, and now it's their turn to take from the people, and it's almost defeatism, and the government, people just think that the government is going to steal from them, we won't have it here. We'll vote people out of office if there's even a hint of scandal. But in other places, they really think that these guys are out to line their own pockets, and a lot of times it's true. And trying to think, but it's endemic, not only at the top, but it's at the local level too. When I was doing a Rotary Club assignment at this hospital in Nigeria, security forces with guns, they will. It's up to for themselves to shake the tree and see how much dollars can flow their way, and just make sure that they're getting something on the take. And I would remind them, I said, you know, if I go back home and make a nice report about this, we're going to come back with more money for a second phase for this project. And then the guy will tell me point blank, yeah, that's great in theory, but I want some money right now. You know? And it's just the way of doing business. I tried not to pay a lot of bribes, but sometimes you have to.
And to get things done, to grease the skids, as they would say.
Yeah, I tried not to, but sometimes when you're facing down a machine gun, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, that's not exactly a bribe at that point. That's called robbery, where I come from. Exactly. But you know, you seem to be an optimistic kind of guy.
Yeah, ask the Olympians that went through that.
And so, you know, with these kinds of roles, with the Rotary and things, what were you trying to do within the hospital to affect the lifestyle there?
We happened to be setting up a computer system in this one hospital, and we brought 12 computers with us and set it up as a technology center. And then I spent some extra time there teaching the people and teaching the teachers, so that they'll be able to teach other people later on down the line who come in contact with it. Mm-hmm. And I spent more time there than I had to, but I really enjoy spending some time overseas with people and finding out more about them and teach them what I know, and then learn from them what they have to offer. Like right now, everybody who was born in America, I think, won the lottery by being born here. I lived in San Diego for 14 years, and I was about 20 minutes north of Tijuana. And if I was born 20 minutes south of where I was born, my life would be totally different than what it is right now. Mm-hmm. So knock on wood, I think I'm very gracious, and I try to be as gracious as I possibly can, both here and abroad, but realize that we were born at a lucky place at a lucky time. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point in time, we have all our technologies and things like that. We're way ahead of a lot of the world. Mm-hmm. I like to describe it as the tip of the iceberg that's above water, and there's 90% of humanity that's still struggling on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. That's totally different from us right now. But if we were somehow to lose our technologies, a smart bomb came down and we weren't able to power up like we do every day, mm-hmm. there'd be a lot of parts of the world that are ahead of us, because they know how to slaughter a goat or kill a chicken and cook it and defend themselves on a regular basis.
Yeah, just thinking about, though, the idea that there are hospital systems, and we, you know, as much as we complain about our healthcare and everything else, mm-hmm. that you, as a private organization, had to raise the funds, deliver a computer system to a hospital.
Yeah.
It seems far-fetched for us to kind of understand. Any idea of what the impact of those kinds of technology investments are? Because what you're also talking about is a non-governmental entity going in and trying to affect the outcomes of things for a local community, and in fact in another part of the world. Any outcomes, any updates that you can share from?
Yeah, that computer system is still going on, and it does well for the hospital itself, but they also lend out computers into like a rental thing. If people came in and spent some money for the internet, and they were able to type to other people around the world, and they were able to do that. So that entity is still going on 10 years later.
Okay, great. So what other kinds of things have you seen? I know before the show we were talking, and you said that really where you're seeing some of these third world countries really suffering are in places like education or in others. Help us understand what you saw there versus what you see here, and if there are potential solutions.
Okay, education. They have schools, universities like we do. we talk about healthcare, for example. It takes our doctors 10 or 12 years. I don't know how long it takes to become a doctor here. In Australia, you could become a doctor in 6 years, which is your 4-year degree and a couple extra. So you don't necessarily need to have this huge amount of time to become a doctor. And I always thought if you brought down the barriers to entry, like the American Medical Association said, yeah, we'll make it 6 years to become a doctor in such time, you'd have a heck of a lot more doctors. More doctors equals less price. Does that mean it's supply and demand a little bit? But it can be done, and it's if we have more medical schools, I think the prices of medicine can come down naturally on its own.
So the question is, what about the quality of care? Did you notice differences, or did you have to take advantage of the Australian healthcare system in any way?
To tell you the truth, I was 8 years in Australia when I played basketball down there. I actually got my U.S. and Australian citizenship, so I have both passports right now, which is great for me. But when I was down in Australia, I went to the doctor all the time because it's free. I mean, how would you not go if it was free? I went for headaches, for knee aches, for backaches, whatever. I've been back here in the U.S. where I have to pay for it myself. I hardly ever go. Right. But it just goes to show you that a system, if you give something to people, they will use it. Right. And I'm not sure I don't ever think I abused it, but I certainly went because I was entitled to it. Right. And if you're talking about 300 million people like we have here, everybody's saying, "Oh, I'm entitled to it. I think I'll go down there." You'd have the lines going out the door. Right. Australia, they only have 20 million people. It's a country the size of ours here, but they have a fraction of the people.
Yeah. Half the population of California.
Yeah, we have more people here in California. You are right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as people are reading your book, what are you hoping that they take away from it?
Just that there can be adventure. There are around the world, and you can find different things to see and do, and you can explore different places, and you can learn about different people, and you can teach them like I taught them about our good country and our good nature of people, and you can learn from them instead of just saying, oh, everybody out there must be different from me. But you'll find that a lot of people are quite the same, with the same goals wherever you go. There's good and bad in everyone, as the song says. Sure.
And so what would you say was one of the key points that you taught that was well received, and conversely, what were one or two of the lessons you brought home?
Since we're talking about things like gun control, I remember you just had a show about that earlier. In a place like Tanzania, for example, only the people who are in charge, the government or the police, have the guns, and regular people are not allowed to have them.
And there are a lot of people here pushing for that, so what was the outcome?
Okay, well, a family that I know there, 3 o'clock in the morning, got a knock on the door, and the husband gets out there, and the guy at the door says, well, we're robbers out here, and we have guns, and we know you don't have any. So I'll tell you what, if you put your valuables in the front room, and then open the door for us, and then go in the back room, we'll let you live. Otherwise, in 5 minutes, we're going to come in and kill you all. Now, this actually happened, and the husband with 2 kids and his wife, he took the television set and the electronics, put it there, and put some money in the front room and put some silverware there, and then he opened the door and he went to the back room and sat there while they looted his house. And I'm not a gun owner myself, but the Second Amendment protects me, because a bad guy at 3 o'clock in the morning sees 5 houses there. He doesn't know who has a gun and who doesn't. Right. So the Second Amendment protects me, even though I don't have a gun. Right. So in Tanzania, there's no such thing, and he knows that regular people don't have guns. And if he's a bad guy, he can just go in there and take what he wants to with this extortion that I just described. Right. Right. And that's one of the things that I really remember about one part of the third world, one developing country. Okay. What else? What did you feel like I said, that they were receptive to learn from you from an American perspective, and one more that you brought home? Okay, I remember one time driving from here to Panama, and I had an assignment in Nicaragua at a women's shelter, and the first couple of days that I was there, I kind of cleaned up the place and took about 2 truckloads of trash to the dump and made it look really nice. And I was installing computers for them, and I was teaching English and going on some medical teams, etc. And I taught them, they had a big mango tree out in the middle of the courtyard, and it was summertime, and they're all eating mangoes, and they're tossing the peelings on the ground, and man, there were fruit flies all over the place. So this was not a very clean place, and I got it cleaned up, and I got them to have a trash can in each room and in each the common area as well. And I taught them how to, have someone empty these things at nighttime and everything, and it looked like it was working pretty well. Well, a couple of weeks later, I went on my way to Panama from there, and then thought nothing of it. Kept in contact with these people by Christmas cards and stuff like that on a regular basis. And then, like 6 years later, I got I met somebody at a holiday party here in the USA, and they said they came back from Nicaragua. I said, I used to work down in Granada, Nicaragua. And she says, yeah, that's exactly where I was. And the mayor of the town is on this big kick. He wants to have a trash can everywhere in the city. And I said, wow. It's just me planting seeds of ideas along the way, and I may not be there for the tree when it comes to fruition, but someone's going to be sitting underneath the shade of that tree, and it's just giving little ideas and letting them run with it. That's what I could do.
It's something as simple as a garbage can we just take for granted here, that they're all over the place, and we wouldn't necessarily think that it could make an impact, but if it's reducing fly populations and those kinds of things.
We didn't always think that way. Back in the 50s and 60s, we threw trash out the windows. There was a big commercial series on the television about got to pitch in to clean up America, and with an Indian that had the tear coming down his face, and that was such a touching thing. America took that to heart, and we no longer throw trash out the car windows.
Right.
We realized that we got to clean ourselves up, and by me teaching that to other people, they cleaned themselves up, and it's just bit by bit.
And so, as I said, so you're talking about, yes, you can make impacts and everything else. Any other parting ideas of what it would be, or the impact that a simple idea can make on other parts of the world, or vice versa?
Well, I would always just say, be yourself, act naturally, and act like you're a guest in someone else's country, because they'll remember you for a long time. And if you're picking your nose, they're going to say, I remember that guy picking his nose. And so just act like you're a guest, and realize that they may be different from you, but figure out, why are they like this? And then you can learn from them, and maybe teach some of your stuff as well. I don't know.
Okay. And so if people would like more information on you or the book, do you have a website?
My book is called Swimming to Angola, and it's http://swimmingtoangola.tripod.com.
Okay.
And I'll tell a little bit of the story, how I came up with the title. I'm driving up the west coast of Africa from South Africa, and I went to the country of through Namibia up to Angola, and they weren't going to allow me into the country. And there evidently was a 30-year civil war going on. There were minefields all over the place, even an outbreak of a deadly virus, so they weren't allowing any tourists in. So I said thanks, and I drove along the river for about 5 miles. I found a little beach area where people were washing their cars. That's what you do in Africa to wash your car. Pull it up to the river, put the front wheels in, and splash some water on it. And lo and behold, I had someone watch my car. I swam to Angola and came back. And the guy on the side says, "Hey, you're a brave man. That's usually where our crocodiles are." So yeah, that was the other side. So a little bit difficult.
It was swimming to Angola and sprinting back across the top.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing, Christopher. If you'll hold on for just a moment, we'll be back after a word from our underwriters, the Conservative Forum.
Some people think that a meeting of conservatives in Silicon Valley could fit in a small room. In fact, when the Conservative Forum was founded in 2003, we did meet in a small room, a coffee shop in San Jose. It doesn't get more grassroots than this. It may surprise you that there are thousands of people right here in Silicon Valley who share your principles of liberty, free markets, and limited government. Since our humble beginnings in that coffee shop, we've outgrown 3 meeting halls. From San Jose to Gilroy to Mill Valley, we bring hundreds of people together each month from all over the Bay Area to promote the principles of American liberty. How do we do it? It starts with a stellar lineup of speakers. Speakers like Steve Forbes, Senator Jim DeMint, Dr. Victor Davis Hanson, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Andrew Breitbart, Pamela Geller, and many others. These speakers passionately articulate our shared principles and remind us why conservatism isn't just the smart choice, it's also the moral choice. Our monthly meetings are only one dimension of the forum. We underwrite The Right Side, a monthly television show on cable access channel KMVT. We also host a monthly Constitution discussion group and provide tables at our meetings for more than a dozen local groups who share our love of liberty to promote their specific cause. The Conservative Forum is the premier place in Silicon Valley for conservatives to gather, become invigorated, motivated, and empowered. We welcome guests to our monthly meetings and offer special discounted pricing to first-time visitors. Take a look at our speaker lineup in the coming months and join us to learn why we say liberty is made in America.
And welcome back to The Right Side. That was a word from our underwriters, the Conservative Forum. We appreciate them immensely because they've actually been underwriting the show. This is now coming toward the end of the 5th season, so we appreciate them immensely. But what they're best known for is their speaker series. And that takes place normally at 7 o'clock the second Tuesday of each month at the IFES Portuguese Hall at 432 Stearland Road, right here in Mountain View, about 3 minutes from the studio. In October, on the 18th, Dinesh D'Souza, the creator and driving force behind the popular documentary Hillary's America, will be speaking. In November, on the 15th, Dr. Charlie Self, a previous guest on this show, also an inspirational speaker and frequent guest as Dr. History on KSFO, will be speaking. And then in December, on the 13th, Nick Adams, the founder and executive director of the Foundation for Liberty and American Greatness, Liberty, American Greatness. It's an organization dedicated to promoting American exceptionalism and combating anti-Americanism worldwide. He's also a best-selling author and columnist as well as a commentator. He'll be at the forum. But if you'd like more information on what's coming up there next, you can find that at theconservativeforum.com. In closing, if you're interested in traveling the world by paper, or if you're just interested in some of the different perspectives that Christopher Blin brought up on the show this evening, or finding out more about his book, Swimming to Angola, you can find that on swimmingtoangola.tripod.com for more information. We thank you for joining us this evening here in the studio or from your living room. And if you're in the area, we'd love to meet you in person at one of the upcoming Conservative Forum events. But if we don't see you there, we'll see you on the show or in person sometime soon. If you just can't wait, though, and you'd like to throw a flaming dart, ask a question, you can do that at therightsidetv@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us. This has been The Right Side. I've been your host, Chris Pareja. Have a great night.